It's Father Vogel as we continue our reflections, reading St. Francis de Sales' Introduction to the Devout Life. We are in chapter 2, and we are partway through his explanation of his short method of meditation. And so we've gone through the process of preparing ourselves for meditation by reminding ourselves we're in the presence of God, calling upon Him for prayers, and also for using our imagination to place the images before us. And so now we're going to move on to the second part of meditation. And this is the meditation proper. This is properly the part called meditation. So these are reflections that lead to God. So to this point he said use your imagination, but now he says to use our understanding. This is what we call meditation, he says. It consists in making one or many reflections in order to arouse good movements of the will towards God and the things of God. So it's using our intellect based upon what we've been imagining from the scripture passage that we were reading, or from the saints, or whatever spiritual reading we might have, or spiritual scene that we're imagining, and now apply our intellect to think through what it means. Now, there's some similarities with this in study, because study we also apply our intellect to learn the things about God. But for study, it's specifically for gaining knowledge, or being able to write something, or being able to engage in conversations with somebody about a topic that you're knowledgeable about. Whereas meditation is different, because its purpose is to acquire virtue and the love of God. That's the main purpose. I'm not going to go into the details of, or like specific examples of what this meditation may look like, because Francis himself doesn't go into it at this point. Instead, we will wait until we go through his 10 meditations from chapter 1, and then we can go into, it'll exemplify exactly what this means, this part. But as he says, as we think about these images that we've been imagining from the scripture or wherever, he says, as long as you find sufficient attraction, light and fruit in one of these reflections, stop there without moving on to another. Be like the bees, who do not leave a flower as long as they find honey to gather there. But if a reflection is not to your liking, after attending to it and trying it for a while, pass on to another, but go on very gently and simply in this manner, without any hurry. So this is one of the important things in meditative prayer, as we're, especially meditating, say, on the scriptures. Often the Lord will speak to us by some kind of word or phrase or image or something that jumps out at us and just seems to capture our attention. We'll stay there, even if it means reading a little bit less of the Bible that day. God is speaking to you there, and you should rest and stay with Him. Wonderful image that Francis has, to be like the bees who, stay at a flower as long as there's nectar there for them to gather, rather than going from one to the other. It's pretty fitting. In fact, right behind me, we have a bee on a flower. As they gather the nectar, so be like the bees who stay at the flower, rather than going about from one place to another. Though he says, if you can't specifically find fruit in a certain passage or a certain part of the passage, then just go on. He says, pass on to another, but very gently and simply, without any hurry. So that's going to be a key too, is just don't be too quick to move on to a new passage, because something doesn't come to you right away doesn't mean God doesn't want to speak to you through that. Or we also want to be careful that we're sufficiently listening first so that we can hear that. Or sometimes we might want to go on because there's a passage that we really don't like, because God is speaking to us and He's pricking our conscience and He's asking us actually to change and go a new direction. And we don't like it, so we want to go on. But no, when we exhaust a passage, to go on very gently and simply without hurrying. So that's kind of, in general, the main part of meditation is going to be this kind of applying our thinking to the passage that we are meditating on. We will go into examples of it when we actually go through the meditations from part 1 in later videos. God bless.